My stepfather was in the Merchant Marine, and I could see the money he was making, so I wanted to try to get in the Merchant Marine. But after going to Frisco and talking to him and everything, he said no. He said, I'd love to have you, but I'd just get you trained and then the Navy would grab you. I said, well, that wouldn't be bad. Well, he said, I'm not going to do it though. You know, he wouldn't take me. So then I went back and went into LA and joined the Navy. Of course, my buddy and I both got down to LA at the same time, and my mother never did believe me that we didn't have it set up. But when we went through and took our physical and everything, the recruiter we had, he talked us into going regular Navy. He said we'd get better benefits, you know, and stuff. And we was young and gullible, so yeah, we signed for regular Navy. Well, it wasn't too bad. It was a lot of marching, and of course, they trained you in a lot of different things. We marched down to the Marine base and qualified on rifles and stuff like that, which we would never ever use unless there was some reason to put us as an invasion. And then when we got out, we were supposed to go to 12 weeks of boot camp. They only give us 8. They rushed us a little bit, and I was supposed to go to small boats, which would be landing craft, taking the Marines in and stuff. But when I was up in Shoemaker waiting to go to class, I come down with the German measles, and the corpsman didn't recognize German measles, and he put I and another gentleman in with scarlet, 2 guys that had scarlet fever. So when the doctor or commander come in the next morning, he was kind of upset a little bit. He sort of chewed the corpsman out a little bit. He said, now I got to quarantine these guys for 2 weeks, and he said 3 days, he said they'll be no more be able to communicate the disease or nothing and be ready to go. Had he not put us in there, I would have probably went to small boats. But when I come out in 2 weeks, went back to the barracks to gather up my things because they just shoved them in the locker until I got out. And one of the guys there said, hey Jack, you better go check the roster up there. I said, why? Well, go look at it. My name was at the top of the list to go on the Missouri. The Missouri had come into Frisco, and they decided they needed another 100 men. Well, it's a pretty big ship, you know, and it was late in the afternoon when we went on board, so we was pretty busy. They actually didn't send us out to the divisions right then. The first night we was on board, we had to sling hammocks and we slept in the galley. And they got us up pretty early the next morning, and that's when they sent us to where we was going to be on the ship. And of course, I went to the 1st Division, and it was down 2 decks way up front, just in front of the breakwater for the turret 1. There was a hatch, and you went down 2 decks, and the Missouri had that whole section, and the nose of the ship would be probably about as wide as 2 rooms. But it was, your beds was about 7 high, and there was probably only about 1.5 to 2 feet between them. So they was pretty close. And our mattress was a very thin pad, and then it was canvas that you had to keep laced tight or it would sag. And then after we left Frisco, that's when they decided where you was supposed to, your gun GEQ station would be. And they put me down in magazine 5 with the powder, and the powder ether smell made me sick, or the smell from the powder anyway made me sick. So then they transferred me up as what they call a sight trainer, and I talked to one of the guys on Desert Storm the other day, and he said, oh no, those theirs are still on there. Well, there is two little ears still on the starboard side of that. But when I was on there, there was a big ear, and it was almost 1.5 feet and at least almost 3 foot wide with a door that would come out. So that ear has been taken off. But it was even controlled by Sky One then, by radar. And as a sight trainer, I didn't have much to do. Well, you didn't have much leisure time because we had what we call 3 watches. And so the crew was divided into 1, 2, and 3 watch. And depending on which watch it was you was on watch 4 hours and you was off 8. Off. And then back on 4 and off 8. So if you went to work at 4 o'clock on watch, you went from 4 to 8, and then you was off from 8 until what it would be 4 in the morning again. So during that time was when you had to shower and get ready for the next day or for your next watch or whatever. And then when you worked from 4 to 8 in the morning, when you got off at 8 o'clock, you went through the chow line because then you went back and scraped paint, sewed lifelines, whatever you needed to do. So during the day you had so much to do. Oh yeah, we painted the deck too with that nice blue paint. That's why we had, when we come back through Honolulu, they had to bring on commercial sanders to sand it off because they wanted to get down to the teak wood decks that was underneath the paint. First division we had from the anchors on the starboard, middle of the starboard, from the middle of the ship to the starboard side, back to the superstructure that was wood. And we'd paint it, we'd take 5 gallons of paint, you just stir it up good, throw it on the deck and stir it around with the mop. Because when you was all done, then you could just toss the mop overside, you know. Yeah. Or maybe just hook a line on it and trail it, take it back aft and trail it over the ship. The salt water would wash the paint out of it after a half a day or so. Yeah. A lot of paint scraping on there at that time. We chip paint and paint it, chip paint, paint it.